Welcome to a very special edition of the Gramophone Podcast. I'm Martin Cullingford, the editor of Gramophone, and this week I'm in Padua, specifically in the Scuola della Carità, an extraordinary historic hospital where Il Pomodoro are recording the latest instalment in their wonderful ongoing series of Mozart symphonies. And I'm joined by their conductor, Maxim Emelyanychev. Maxim, hello.
Hello.
Now, just listening to the music upstairs, there's such an extraordinary energy to the performance, to hearing it on these period instruments. And here in a space like that, I mean, that energy I've described, that must be something that you feel when up there conducting.
For me, it's very exciting to do this project here in Padua. We are in the middle of so many great architecture and arts and pictures and paintings and cathedral and Giotto, the masterpieces all around us. And in Sala della Carità, of course, it has so many different layers to understand it. And from musician's part of view, it has fantastic acoustic. That's why we record here. And it's our second edition of Mozart here. We already recorded here our second volume of Mozart symphonies, together with Il Pomodoro and Ivan Podiomov, oboe player. So now we returned in extreme hot time in the season. So we are all quite much suffering, but we inspired so much from Mozart's music and from his young compositions. His early symphonies, we record now, I think 9 or 10 of them. And each of them was written age from 8 to 11. But so many different styles and so much aliveness in his music. And we just inspired so much about this.
Yeah. No, so the sessions here, which describes, so it's focusing on the early symphonies of Mozart, and you're choosing a number of them. And we've just been hearing the finale of Symphony number 4, when he would have been, how old would he have been?
Symphony number 4, he will be about 9 years old. It was written in London, so...
Right, okay, well, there were another nice London
in his tournée, his father, Leopold Mozart, very famous violin teacher and basically the father of the genius. He bring him to many tournées, many tours, and in London, I think he write early his symphonies.
And we'll come on to talk about some of the later symphonies which you've already recorded in a moment. But to look at those early symphonies, are you hearing in them, I mean, they're extraordinary works, they're full of energy, full of life, but are you hearing the sort of voice of the genius that emerged? Is there something that if these weren't by Mozart, if they were just by another 9-year-old who didn't go on to be Mozart, is there still something you just think there's something really quite special in them?
I find each of them very special. Some of the movements may be very usual. Like, for example, when he writes Menuetto, is usual dance, which he needed to include in the symphony. But sometimes you have so much genius music in the slow movements. And even in the Symphony number 1, which we recorded in our first volume with Il Pomodoro for Aparté label, you can hear in the second movement there's exact theme of the 41 Jupiter Symphony of Finale. So I think very much is connected, and many people say, of course, what he received a lot of help from his father composing these symphonies, but you can hear what the center of music is quite something, is very special. And our thing here, our point of why we do this recording now, because there are many complete cycles of Mozart symphonies, our thing is to find those leitmotifs, to find deep layers of Mozart's music.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like one just hears Mozart never stuck to convention, but even back then there's this like sense of a young person just experimenting, just doing what occurs to him and not caring what other people are thinking. And you can already hear that just sense of rhythmic vitality. And
he traveled a lot, and you can see in his music a lot of influences from Italy, from Mannheim School, of course from Vienna later on. So in terms of instrumentation style, even harmonic melodies, you can see like each symphony has his own style.
Yeah. And what's particularly thrilling, and that defines the whole series, is hearing them on period instruments, which is what Il Pomodoro does and is, and that must enable you to take those scores and really communicate something very special about what Mozart wanted to achieve in them. It's his sound world.
Yes, it's his sound worlds, but I think our point today is not only to reproduce how it was, because we don't know exactly. There are no recordings. Of course, we try to use period instruments, and we read a lot of treatises and a lot of letters and a lot of evidence how it was and what he wanted to achieve. And sometimes you see in his letters to his father, he wanted to achieve surprise and some new style things. So I think nowadays we perform for modern audience, and we need to achieve their interest. And our art should be actual. Our ears now developed a lot. We need to understand his aesthetic, but at the same time we need to use all the possibilities of techniques and affetti and feelings of 3 centuries after.
You obviously perform Mozart a lot on modern instruments, whether with the Scottish Chamber Orchestra or the Orchestra of the Royal Opera House when you were conducting Magic Flute a year or so ago. Do you find that working with period instruments informs the way that you then work with modern instruments? Do you learn something from perhaps both approaches that informs the other?
I think nowadays orchestras are so well educated in general, and you mentioned Scottish Chamber Orchestra and Royal Opera House Orchestra. They both played natural brass instruments, timpani, wooden flutes. And in Scottish Chamber, we do a lot of programs with gut strings. We do gut strings even for Mendelssohn, Brahms, even Schnittke. This is already in our aesthetic. I think nowadays musicians are very well educated, and we are lucky and able to choose which stylistic we play. And this depends of how big hall is it, how much rehearsals we have, and what we need to say in our message through music. And I find the language we speak like musicians is much more important compared to instruments we play. The idea is much more important than the techniques you use for it.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair enough. But I must ask about that extraordinary looking keyboard that you play, which looks very beautiful. I noticed you prop it up on a book, which is rather wonderful. But tell me about that particular keyboard.
This is a very good instrument.
Yes.
Comes by our friend of orchestra. He lives here in the region, and this is very great copy of Flemish instrument.
Right. Yes.
It's double manual, and because in early symphonies of Mozart you always have a continuo part. You have numbers, so there's evidence, so some continuo players should be there. And I find it very natural to play harpsichord, because it gives music the chamber music approach way of playing.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. Now let's talk about this series as a whole. Where did it begin? This ambition to record Mozart symphonies complete with Il Pomodoro, with the label Aparté. How did it begin?
My friendship with Nicolas Bartholomé, the chef of Aparté studio recording, began when I was with Theodore Corenzis in Perm, in Musica Eterna orchestra. And since then we became great friends, And since then, we did a lot of projects together, my solo projects, my orchestra recordings and chamber music. And when they joined our Mozart cycle, we were just very happy and lucky, because Nicola has such a great ears, and he hears ensemble like we wish to be sound like. It's very special. And of course there are many Mozart complete symphony cycles existing already, but when you study music closely and when you have the best musicians which you can have, in my case is Il Pomodoro, my ensemble, I just find we need to do this, because Mozart is my favorite composer, and I find his music genius, and I find so much we able to find in each symphony. That's why we do this.
So, though I've been listening to the early works of Mozart being recorded, the release of the volume that's just come out contains the Symphonies number 35 and 36, the Hafner, the Linz, and then the Violin Concerto number 3. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Really, really wonderful recording. So congratulations on that. Tell me a little bit about that recording. Was that recorded here as well?
No, it was recorded in Italy, in Reggio Emilia.
Okay.
So always before recording, we tried to find some concerts, and Reggio Emilia was also the place with fantastic architecture around and great theater. It was not comfortable to record as well, because in the Baroque theaters you have stage angled, for the ballet reason. But I find this recording very special. And usually our aesthetic of the Mozart's full cycle to put in CD is to have different symphonies, like early and late, and something else in the CD, like in the shape of the perfect concert, like opener, concerto, big symphony. So in most cases, like small symphony, concerto, and big symphony. But in this volume, we did 2 symphonies which are competitive with each other. So Linz and Hafner. I think they are all great, and combined with quite gentle thought Violin Concerto. I find this CD shape also almost perfect.
Yes, absolutely. And these 2 symphonies also define something interesting about Mozart. The Hafner emerged from a commission he reluctantly did, but then thought he'd turn it into a symphony. The Linz, written in 4 days for a concert, and it was an exciting experiment about that. Two very different works, symphonies that abut each other, but perhaps illustrate what he was doing at that point of his life and career.
Yes, absolutely. In each symphony you can find different style, different instrumentation, and I think putting them in one CD close to each other gives you great perspective, and also pleasure to listen, because you listen different styles. You don't listen the same D major for 40 minutes.
Yeah. And then the Violin Concerto number 3 also showcases your musicians as well. It's performed by your leader, isn't it?
Yes, I'm so happy to record this concerto with Ilan Pritchen, my big friend. We studied together in Moscow Conservatory, and we do a lot of things together. We did, I think we tried to count, and I think we did play more than 80 concerts together, of playing and conduct, and playing and playing, so all kind of collaborations. And I find this recording very special.
And now Il Pomodoro, absolutely extraordinary ensemble. You've been their chief conductor since 2016, I think, but also with them for much longer than that. Involved in so many creative projects with singers, symphonies like this. Tell me about the plans with Il Pomodoro and what your ambitions with them are.
In Pomodoro, I started like harpsichord player together with Riccardo Minasi, a violinist and conductor. We built this group, and I'm lucky to be with them, and I learned a lot from them. And because we do a lot of vocal music, sacred music or opera music, we are lucky with musicians to learn a lot from singers. Voice is the best instrument. And when you work with artists like Michael Spires, Joyce DiDonato, you learn a lot. And when I'm playing now Mozart or any other instrumental music, you always try to think like singer.
Yeah. No, that's I think that's really, really interesting. And thinking of the Linz Symphony, there's a wonderful sense of cantabile, of lyrical line.
Yes, even when you have even the simple brass long note, I find always so great to find the moments when they can sing it. So to find the cantabile moments, and I find in finale we find in each symphony I try to find the best cantabile forte movement for them.
Obviously, Mozart was writing these symphonies whilst also working on operas. Do you, in your mind, do you feel resonances between what he's doing in those symphonies and what he was writing in operas at that period of time? Can you sort of put yourself in the place of Mozart's mind in those particular years at that moment?
For me, of course, there is a connection. You can hear similar music, but I don't think the things are connected, because opera makes difference because it has a text, it has a plot, and you hear the same music differently because of the text.
Yeah.
So I think he just wrote great music, and he can adjust it depending on the text. There are great examples, like he changed the text to the music of the Messa C minor to Oratoria with the same music and completely different text. And it was big tradition, comes from Bach and Handel, when they changed the text using the same music. Of course, music is connected in a certain way. The semantic is the same. So you use lamento, you use descending semitone scale if something sad happening. If you use dramatic arpeggio if something important happening. This is general rules of rhetoric of late Baroque time. I think Mozart knew it as well, but I don't find much connection between music.
Yeah, that I think so. The last movement of the Linz Symphony actually just sounds like it could be the opening of an opera overture. It just
absolutely, yes, absolutely,
drive energy. So, what are you going to be recording tomorrow? And I'm understanding that you've got a long list of works you could choose, and you're just picking the ones that feel right for the moment. Is that correct?
Yes, we had a few days of rehearsals, so we read all the music which we have, and now we just see what is better. Different temperature, different key, different attitude of the orchestra. Conductor needs to be a psychologist at a certain point.
Yeah.
You need to understand the mood of the musicians. What is good to do now? What is good to do later? When to do pause? What to work? When to be dictator? When to be democrat? This is very of how to say, fragile line, but important to do both.
Yeah, because it looks very collegiate. I watch you together. It's almost like a large chamber ensemble. You're very together, but in your mind, you are that, but you're also having to think, well, I'm also controlling the situation. I'm inspiring them. I'm trying to get the best out, but aware also of the limits. So you don't push too far.
Conductor needs to do everything. Conductor needs to be inspiring person. Conductor needs to take care about quality, about rhythm, intonation, sound. Conductor needs to take care about time. Conductor needs to take care about discipline, about how much you do, how much musicians do. And conductor needs to allow musicians to speak as well. So it's chamber music, but you need to organize the process well. Otherwise, we'll not finish recording on time.
Yeah. And it is a real privilege to be able to record these works in studio conditions over really quite a number of days. That doesn't happen quite so often in this modern age?
I think more we play together, more we understand each other, and I'm lucky to be with group more than 10 years.
Yeah.
So most of the people understand each other, like principles,
Yeah.
very fast. And this is a good point.
And may I ask, in the early music movement, the path to becoming a conductor isn't quite as obvious as if someone starts conducting Mahler symphonies. And you started as a continuo player. Did you always imagine you would be where you are now as a conductor of a group like Il Pomo, but also an opera conductor? Was that always the plan, always the ambition?
My first profession is conducting.
Right.
I started in Pomodoro like a continuo player, but when I was young, my first profession was conducting. I started to conduct since I'm 12.
Right.
I was in a boys' choir.
Okay.
And I started to conduct. Then, to be good conductor, teachers told me you need to play instrument.
Okay.
So I started to play more professionally piano. Then came harpsichords, other period instruments, cornetto, pianoforte. But when I first conducted early Mozart symphony, I was just conducted it.
Right.
Then only after some years I understood what this is not only way. So in his time, music was played differently. So I started to learn how it was. It was big change for me. And now I do Mozart and Baroque music with pianoforte or harpsichord.
And that experience on so many different instruments, which not every conductor has, that really must help you have an insight into what's going on within the orchestra as they interpret their parts.
Absolutely, yes. When I started to conduct, my teachers asked me also to play in the orchestra. So I had a lot of experience to play in the orchestra, like celesta, pianoforte, like piano, harpsichord, but a lot of Schnittke, Shostakovich, all the Mahler, all the things with keyboards in the orchestra. And both parts of the profession goes on a plus on each part. So more you play instruments, better you understand the music. More you conduct, more overview you have to play simple instrument.
The acoustic up there sounds extraordinary. I should describe the space. It's sort of a long rectangle room, but with a quite low ceiling and a beautiful flat wooden ceiling, which really seems to give a real immediacy as well as a bloom. Is that something you feel as performers? Can you hear that sound? Does it change and inspire the way you actually perform?
When we record, it's quite difficult to do compromise, but we always need to find compromise between the best quality and best energy. Because when you play real concerts, sometimes you give much more energy than quality. Here, when microphones are very close, you can achieve this incredible piano sound and articulation in piano. But also you don't need to forget about energy. So for me, it's always compromise. It's not compromise, it's everything together. Yeah. You need to take care about microphone, and you need to remember about how would you play when you play in front of the audience, how much emotions you give. Because to record emotions, this is magic part of the recording. Not to record the notes, but to record emotions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I've obviously heard a dramatic finale upstairs. Maybe tomorrow I can come and hear a slow movement and hear that different sound. Do you know what the next album will be of the symphonies?
We're still deciding.
Okay.
We have plans, so for sure it will be one of the major symphonies, like Prague or 39. And some of less known early symphony, and maybe some concerto.
I was going to ask that. Yes, you're going to bring in some bonus material, as it were.
Of course.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Well, it's been a huge pleasure to be able to be here, sitting in amongst this extraordinary space, listening to this extraordinary music. Maxim Emelyanychev.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this Gramophone podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please do search for Gramophone wherever you find your podcasts. We have hundreds more episodes featuring leading artists to download and enjoy. And do subscribe for free to future episodes. And if you can, please leave us a rating or a review. It really helps others to discover our work. And speaking of subscribing, Gramophone Magazine is published every month in print and online and is packed full of reviews and features about the latest classical music releases. And all listeners to this podcast can get a 20% discount off any subscription package. Simply visit gramophone.co.uk/subscribe and enter the code podcast20 in the checkout. And do join us again next week for another Gramophone podcast.